I hope you all are having a great day. I'm Jill Hicks, the founder of JH Consulting, and I have been around the sport of college gymnastics for over 30 years. And this topic today is probably the most popular, and that is how to get a Division I scholarship in the sport of women's gymnastics. So I'm going to do my best to cover this topic. There's a lot involved in this topic, and I can tell you right now, there's some foundational things that do make a difference. I see throughout the many years that I've been doing this in gymnasts that receive scholarships, but also it can be, just like anything, it can also be unique. It could be different than the standard types of things you might see. So I always say keep an open mind. And if you don't fall in line with all of these items that I'm going to share, it doesn't mean you can't receive a scholarship. These are just a lot of the more of the items that we typically do see with athletes who earn a scholarship. All right. So first of all, to receive a Division I scholarship, the first thing you have to do is be eligible to play on a Division I team. So the NCAA created a place called the Eligibility Center. It used to be called the Clearinghouse. Then they changed it to the Eligibility Center. So this is on the NCAA website. And in order to be eligible for a scholarship, Division I or II, you have to fill out forms. So make sure you do that. They recommend you do it now in 9th grade. So we used to say by 10th grade, but they're recommending 9th grade. I don't know exactly why, but you may as well get it done in 9th grade. And then you add to it every single year that you get your transcripts and your grades and things like that. You have to answer some questions for eligibility, and then they want to evaluate all your schooling. So you must receive academic and amateur certification from the Eligibility Center to compete at, like I said, Division I or II schools in all sports. So that's kind of the foundation. You want to get that done. You want to be sure you do it, or you can't go on visits, and ultimately you wouldn't be able to receive a scholarship. So what is a scholarship? So a scholarship is when the university decides that you are at a level that fits their program and hopefully can come in and have an impact and probably replace the athletes that are graduating so they don't drop in ranking. One thing you have to remember about recruiting is that the college coaches are, if they're competitive, especially, and not all of them tend to be, but most of them are, they don't want to lose or drop in their ranking. They have to stand before their athletic director every single spring, and they have to usually talk about how their team did, why their team did whatever they did that year, and how recruiting went, and of course, graduation rates and things like that. So the college coaches want to replace whoever's graduating with either the same ability level or better, so that they can continue to move towards whatever their goals are as a team. For some goals, it's to win nationals. For other teams, it's to get to regionals. For some, like Division II teams, it's to win their conference. So there's all different goals that college coaches, make or want or desire with their teams. And it's really important to ask that, because if that's also your goal, then it's a really good match. But typically, when you receive a scholarship offer, it's going to cover tuition, fees, books, room, and board. Now, there's also a lot of additional perks that can come with a scholarship offer or being part of a team. It's not typically something that's written in an offer. It's just part of being on a team, and we call those perks. Okay, so that's been the way scholarships have worked the past, I would say, 30 years. But things are changing. So I'll be doing another video on the changes when we get the changes. All right. So for now, those are the basics. Every school in gymnastics, it can receive 12 full athletic scholarships that would cover tuition, fees, books, room, and board. We have always been a head count sport. So that meant you could have as many girls on the roster as you wanted, but only 12 would receive those full athletic scholarships. That is all changing in the next year or two. So I'll go through some more of the details in a moment, but we are switching from a head count sport to all sports are switching to what's called an equivalency. So now a college coach can give $1 to an athlete, or they can give a full scholarship or even more than that. They can give as much as they want, I assume. That hasn't come out yet, but it's going to be very interesting because it's never been like that before. So what are the odds of receiving a Division I scholarship? For example, let's use the sport of football. So the chances of receiving a Division I football scholarship are, they say, very remote. There are only about 125 Division I programs, and each school right now has 85 scholarships. That's going to go up. They'll be able to give more in football. But for now, that means there are roughly 10,000 scholarship for Division I players out there, with roughly 1.5 million high school players. So the odds are less than 1% to receive an athletic scholarship in football. Oh my goodness. So the average, how much is the average Division I scholarship? The average athletic scholarship for all sports in Division I is approximately $14,000 a year. In Division II sports, the numbers drop to $5,000 a year. Okay, so that's how it's been the last, like I said, 30 years. Some of those numbers are rough, so you can't quote me because sometimes those things change. But those are some of the typical range of numbers. And I just thought I'd use football as an example. So how hard is it to get a Division I scholarship in gymnastics? Now, remember, Division II schools have what's called partial scholarships right now. So they usually have about 6, or they can have up to 6 right now, and they can split up the money, whereas Division I cannot, okay? So that's the big difference there. They can only give out the 12, and they usually give out 3 a year on average. Sometimes it's 2 per team, sometimes it's only 1. And that's because of how changes happen on a team. And so girls sometimes leave, girls sometimes stay longer. So it's not always 3, but that's like an average. So how hard is it, like I said, to get a Division I scholarship in gymnastics right now? Like I said, and this could all change due to the NIL and the roster limits, but there are 60 some teams that have Division I gymnastics, and they roughly have 12 scholarships per team. So that's about 720 scholarships total if you multiply the 12 by 60. But they only give out about 3 scholarships per team per year. So that's 180 athletic scholarships for Division I. And then we have our Division II schools. Okay. So when you think about it, I'm not sure, but I think at DP Nationals each year, they have about 1,000, maybe level 10s. And I'm sure that changes every year. And then like this year, the 2026s, there were 27 elites going through the recruiting process. So so how many of those girls, there's only going to be 180 maybe scholarships given out that year out of over 1,000, competitive level 10, athletes, or a little over that with the elites. Okay. So that's just those are not hard numbers. That's kind of a rough estimate. All right. So how long, so I guess going back to it, those are just some stats. How hard is it? That's pretty competitive. It is hard. It's hard to be the 180, let's say, best that year out of all those gymnasts. Now, there's a lot of girls that receive an athletic scholarship who are not at nationals. So maybe they only got to regionals, or maybe they got injured and, but they're still a very strong level 10, for example, or very strong elite. So it's definitely a very, rough number there. Could be 2,000 girls a year. Probably not, probably 1,500-ish. I don't even know. And I think that's a hard number to find. So just know those are some of the basic numbers. All right. How long does a Division I scholarship last? Well, many athletic scholarships right now are granted for one academic year at a time. However, schools are allowed to provide multi-year scholarship offers. How is this all going to change with the roster numbers and going from a head count to equivalency? Nobody really knows yet. So it's going to look a little bit more like contracts, and it's going to be, is what I've heard, and it's going to be a little bit like how you do is whether or not you'll be able, I don't know if there'll be, right now the NCAA says you can't take away a scholarship for an injury or how you perform. But I don't know if that's going to change with these new changes coming up. So it's going to be very interesting. What level do you need to be in gymnastics to have a shot at a scholarship? So typically your elites are going to get scholarships, past elites, elites who drop down to level 10, and then the highest of level 10s. So based on probably scores and start values, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So those first scholarship offers, so if your athletes are 26, like right now, they're going through the recruiting process. Those first scholarship offers you're going to see go to the elites who are going on visits or the very highest of level 10s, and probably to teams that are ranked in the top 25. And you can find those teams by going to roadtonationals.com. But many schools will not recruit that level of gymnasts. They can't, they don't. And they're going to be more average level 10s. So therefore, all other level 10s are vying for those spots. Obviously, the ones that do the best typically are the ones getting scholarships at the lower ranked Division I teams. But below, I'm going to be speaking now to some of the things that we consistently see as advisors throughout the years that really matter to the college coaches when deciding on making a scholarship offer. Okay, so number one, it really helps to score well. We see a lot of girls receiving scholarships who score a 38 in the all-around at level 10, or they're scoring 9.7s and above on several events. So maybe you're not a top all-arounder, but you're really strong on 3 events. We see girls getting scholarship offers for that. Number 2, your skills scores and start values are done with consistency and definitely make a difference. So what do I mean by that? So college coaches in our sport of gymnastics can real quickly look for your scores online if you've been competing over the years and see how consistent are you? How high are you scoring? What events are you really strong on? Then they're going to go and look at your videos, and then they're going to want to get to know you. But your execution and having clean 10.0 start values for college, which I'm going to talk about, is very different than level 10 start values, is what makes we see a really big difference in athletes receiving scholarships. So your start values really matter to the college coaches. So typically college meets are judged based upon the college rules. Based upon level 10 rules, but the college coaches decide each year and vote on making adjustments to those level 10 rules for various reasons. So make sure you know in your gym from your club coaches what those changes are. So you can adjust your level 10 routines to match up to the level. It's called college routines. So a lot of level 10s, for example, when I'm meeting with them, go, yeah, I have 10 start values. And I have to tell them, well, you have 10 start values that are beautiful for level 10, but you're missing some of the college additional things and items that are needed to have a 10 start value. So that's something you definitely want to go over with your advisor if you're with JH Consulting or your club coaches, or just be sure you know these. So for example, vaults, the biggest one everybody knows, a Yurchenko layout full at level 10 is a 10 start value, whereas in college it's only a 995. So if you have a 10 start value, because most girls do the 995, your Yurchenko layout full, I would say majority. But if you have a 1.5, your Yurchenko layout 1.5, or you have a front pike half, you're going to be very marketable, because it's rare to find elites and level 10s that are doing those vaults. All right, here's some other things. Exposure is really important. They want to see, can you compete at a high level? So did you qualify to DP Nationals? Now, again, I want to say a lot of girls get recruited without doing that, but it can be very, beneficial when the coach is kind of going through their list of how you compare to other athletes, and can you compete at that high level? Did you place at DP Nationals? Can you compete under pressure? Did you compete at Nastia Cup? Did you compete at the elite meets? Do you come from a gym that produces Division I scholarship gymnasts consistently? Are you connected to college coaches through camps and clinics and your club coaches, or with advisors here at JH Consulting? Have you stayed healthy in regards to injuries? Or are you from a gym where you have soft landings and you have pits? Do you compete with consistency? Again, consistency is so important in the sport of gymnastics in college. It's all about being clean and consistent. Then after all of that, girls who receive scholarships tend to do well in school, have good grades. They have a great personality that they're going to bring to the team. They have a passion for the sport. They're going to look at your family background. They're going to look at your work ethic. How do you train? What's your attitude like? What is your potential down the road like? And do your strengths match the holes in the overall situation they're in as a team? Will your best events fill their holes of who's ever graduating? So those are just some of the items that we see as somewhat requirements when scholarships are being offered. Again, remember, things could be changing soon due to the NCAA and that big lawsuit. I'll probably be doing another video on this topic to explain all of that. But I put it out there yesterday that I was going to do this video, and some of you, I asked you to send me your questions about this topic. So I'm going to answer some of those questions now. Number one, somebody asked me, can an event specialist receive a scholarship? So I've seen this happen in the past, especially on vault and bars. If you're really strong on those two events, I've seen some Division I schools make offers to kids with just gymnasts with just those two events. But I can tell you everything may change on this level. Yes, they're always going to want the all-arounders, but now in the future, they're going to be able to they can give $1 to one. You can have 20 girls on a roster. You can give $1 to one athlete, or you can give, way beyond the 14,000 tuition fees, books, room and board now. I don't know that there'll be a limit on that number. They'll get a bulk, let's just say they get $100. I'm joking, but to give to 20 girls. So obviously the athletes that can produce more are going to get more of that $100, but they might go find somebody who's really strong on one event and give you a portion of that $100, like a smaller portion. So we'll just have to see how this all plays out. Just remember, we'll be switching from a head count sport to what's called an equivalency. So you get 20 girls on the roster who can receive any amount of money. And the college coaches will just have to decide based on what they're seeing. So it's going to be really important, probably more important, maybe than before, that you do well in club to be able to receive the most money possible when you get recruited. Number 2, I have a parent who asked, my question is, can a girl get a scholarship if she isn't elite or at level 10 for multiple years? My daughter will only be a level 10 in 10th grade, but she's working skills ahead of our current level. If you could answer this, this would be great. The answer to that is yes. Some level 10s, depending on their situation and what's gone on in their background and what club they're from, they're only a level 10 for 1 year and they do outstanding that year and they get recruited and they get scholarships. It is more rare because typically you see athletes in level 10 have to do a few years before they hit their prime. So it kind of depends on how strong of a competitor your daughter is with those bigger skills when she goes level 10. Number 3, my daughter spends the summer doing upgrades and then doesn't use some of them for her routines. They want her to do the stuff that is still E level, so E skill, that's a very high level, but is easier to get better scores on. Do you think Division I schools want to see clean, high scoring routines or high level skills with a little less high scoring? That's a great question, this parent said. Again, it's all about being clean. So I typically would recommend you compete the cleanest routines and then show your higher level skills in the gym in practice. Because if you can't compete them well, your scores are going to be low. And if your scores are low, they're not going to notice you as much. So that would be my recommendation. Or maybe do a couple meets and try your E skills in those meets. But for the most part, you want to do clean gymnastics, those D skills, and then show your E skills in training. But every athlete's different. Some girls compete really well under pressure with those E skills, and other girls, no way. They need more years and time. My daughter is a 3rd year level 10. She has her heart set on a very high ranked college. Of course, I'm nervous because I want her to have options with scholarships where she will compete. That's another big part of the, recruiting process is, do you go after those high ranked teams or do you go after teams where you're going to have an opportunity to compete? And, I think you do both and see how recruiting goes. And when you go watch practice on your official visit, think about those things because they can make a difference. Do you want to sit on the bench or do you want to and just train? Or do you want to have a really great come right out of the gate your freshman year competing on 3 events? Everybody's different. Last question from a parent. Is it better to have a great level 9 season as a junior or push for level 10? First year level 9 as a junior, she will max out on D skills on beam and floor in 9, and she has Ds and combos to complete floor and beam with a 10.0 start value for both 9 and 10. She's working Yurchenko half on vault. Vault comes easy for her, so she believes the full wouldn't be a problem if she did 10. Bars is a struggle, so that would be a low scoring event for her. Always at level 9 or 10. This is so common. It's so common to have a gymnast who has one event that they really struggle on. So I would say when I advise on this question, whether or not to go level 9 or level 10, I always come back to confidence. So if the gymnast competes well and they're super confident in their gymnastics at level 9, that can sometimes be a better choice than going level 10, being overwhelmed and scoring very low 9s or even 8s the whole season. So it just depends more on the competitive level and the mental ability for that athlete and how they compete. It's not so much having more seasons at level 10, because if you can't do level 10 consistently with good scores, college coaches won't be interested. But if you can do one more year of level 9 with those higher level skills and then 1 year of level 10, but come out of the gate really confident, That can be powerful, even though a lot of scholarships will already be offered. So you kind of have to weigh that all out. But I always go back to the mental health, the mental competition ability of the athlete. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm Jill Hicks, past college coach for 20 years in the sport of gymnastics and founder of JH Consulting. As always, feel free to reach out to us at JH Consulting, fill out the forms page, and one of our advisors will give you a call with all the details of how you can become a JH girl and get the advice you need to have a smoother recruiting process.